The dark void of space surrounded the UES Thunderchild as it glided through the unknown region. Captain Hannah Park stood tall on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the colorful holographic map floating before her. The ship hummed quietly beneath her feet. "Anything new, Lieutenant?" she asked, turning to her navigation officer. "Still tracking those strange energy readings, Captain. They're unlike anything I've seen before." Humanity had spread across many star systems in the past 200 years. The Thunderchild represented the best of human technology, sleek, powerful, and equipped with advanced sensors that could detect the faintest signals across vast distances. The ship's mission was to explore and make contact with any intelligent life they might encounter. 3 days ago, those sensors had picked up unusual patterns that led them here, beyond the usual human patrol routes. Lieutenant J1's console suddenly lit up with blinking alerts. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission. The source appears to be 20,000 kilometers off our port bow." Hannah straightened her blue uniform jacket. "Put it on the main screen." The large display at the front of the bridge flickered to life. At first, there was only static, then shapes began to form. The bridge crew gasped as a figure appeared. It wasn't human, not even close. The being had shimmering scales that changed color with each slight movement. Its face featured multiple eyes arranged in a pattern around a central point. When it spoke, the sound was like musical notes played on strange instruments. "Working on translation," said Jaiwan, his fingers dancing across his control panel. The ship's artificial intelligence processed the alien language, and soon words appeared at the bottom of the screen. "Humans, you trespass in Xalarian space. Return to your systems immediately." The bridge fell silent. First contact. After centuries of wondering if humanity was alone in the universe, they finally had their answer. Hannah took a deep breath. This moment would be recorded in history books. She stepped forward. "Open a channel," she ordered. "Channel open. Captain, I am Captain Hannah Park of the United Earth Federation. We come in peace and seek diplomatic relations." Her voice remained steady despite her racing heart. The alien's eyes, all 7 of them, seemed to focus more intently on her. Its scales shifted from blue to a deep purple. "The Xalarian Empire has ruled these stars for 10,000 years. The translation read, 'Your kind are newcomers. Primitives.'" The screen went dark. "They've cut the transmission," Jai-1 reported. Hannah remained still, processing the encounter. 10,000 years of interstellar rule. Humanity had only achieved faster-than-light travel in the early 26th century. Commander Ta Kim moved to her side. He was her most trusted officer, having served with her for 8 years. "That didn't sound friendly," he said quietly. "No, it didn't," Hannah agreed. She turned to her communications officer. "Any other ships in this sector?" "No, Captain. We're alone out here." Commander Tay's expression darkened. "Captain, there's something you should know. I've been reviewing fleet reports. 3 colony ships have gone missing in this sector in the past month." "Missing? Why wasn't I informed?" "The reports just came through before we lost regular communication. The ships were the Horizon, the New Dawn, and the Promise. All were carrying families to the new settlement on Proxima B. All disappeared without distress signals." Hannah's eyes narrowed as she stared at the empty screen where the alien had been moments before. "And now we know why," she said grimly. "The Xalarians don't want neighbors. They want subjects." "Your orders, Captain?" asked Ta. Hannah turned to face her crew. 20 faces looked back at her, waiting for direction. The Thunderchild might be advanced, but they were alone in unknown territory, facing an empire that claimed to be thousands of years old. "Plot all possible locations where those ships might have been taken, based on their last known positions," she ordered. "And prepare a complete report to send back to Earth Command at the first opportunity." "And if we encounter more Xalarian ships?" asked her tactical officer. Hannah's jaw tightened. "We maintain peaceful intentions, but shields stay up. I want all systems at full readiness." As the crew turned to their tasks, Hannah moved to the large viewport that showed the vast emptiness of space. Somewhere out there were 3 ships full of innocent colonists, men, women, and children who had set out to build new lives on distant worlds. "We'll find them," she whispered to herself, "and we'll show these Excelarians that humanity isn't as primitive as they think." Little did she know that this encounter would mark the beginning of a conflict that would reshape the power structure of the entire galaxy. The Grand Council chamber on Earth glowed with soft blue light. 50 men and women sat in a semicircle, representing all human colonies across 12 star systems. Their faces showed worry as Admiral Sun Ho walked to the center of the room. The Admiral was a tall man with gray hair and a face marked by years of space travel. 3 weeks had passed since the Thunderchild's encounter with the Excelarians, and things had gotten worse. "Members of the United Earth Council," Sun Ho began, his deep voice filling the room. "The Excelarians have sent us their demands." He pressed a button on his wrist device. A large hologram appeared, showing symbols and text translated from the alien language. "The Excelarians have delivered their terms," he announced. "Humanity must cease all expansion beyond the Orion Arm, submit to regular inspections, and provide tribute in the form of resources and technology." Silence filled the room as the council members read the demands. Then Counselor Lee, a fierce woman who represented the outer colonies, slammed her fist on the table. "This is nothing short of colonization," she shouted. "They're treating us like a primitive civilization." Murmurs of agreement spread through the chamber. Other council members began to speak all at once. "We cannot surrender our independence. But can we fight an empire that's existed for 10,000 years? What about our missing colony ships?" Admiral Sun Ho raised his hand for quiet. "That's precisely how they see us, as primitives. But they've overlooked something crucial." He tapped his device again. The hologram changed to show 5 sleek, black warships unlike any in the current human fleet. They resembled great ocean predators, with smooth lines and no visible weapon sports. "The Leviathan-class vessels," Sun Ho said with pride. "Our newest defense technology incorporates the quantum consumption drive." Across the room, Dr. Junyu stood up. He was a small man with kind eyes that contrasted with his brilliant mind. As Earth's leading quantum physicist, his work had changed space travel forever. "My team developed it after studying quantum entanglement," Dr. Jun explained. "These ships can absorb energy weapons fire and repurpose it, growing stronger with each attack." He walked to the hologram and pointed to the hull of one ship. "The outer layer contains millions of quantum receptors. When struck by energy weapons, the attack is not blocked, it's consumed. The energy is stored and can be redirected as needed." Counselor Lee looked skeptical. "And you're certain this works? It sounds too good to be true." "We've tested it against every weapon in our arsenal," Admiral Sun Ho confirmed. "The more energy directed at these ships, the stronger they become, and the Excelarians rely almost exclusively on energy-based weapons." The mood in the room shifted. For the first time, there was hope. "We've built 5 Leviathan ships," Sun Ho continued. "Not enough for a war, but enough to defend our core systems while we build more." The council voted to attempt one final diplomatic solution before considering military action. A summit was arranged at Luna Base, Earth's moon, where human representatives would meet with Silurian officials. 6 hours later, in the grand meeting hall of Luna Base, tension filled the air. The Excelarian delegation stood on one side, tall, scale-covered beings with multiple eyes and an air of superiority. Human diplomats gathered opposite them, with Captain Hannah Park and her security team positioned near the doors. Ambassador Da-hyun, a respected diplomat with 30 years of experience, stepped forward with a data tablet. His gray hair was neatly combed, and his voice remained calm despite the stress of the situation. "Honorable representatives of the Excelarian Empire," he began, "we wish to propose alternative terms that would benefit both our civilizations." The lead Excelarian, who had introduced himself as High Commander Vex, made a dismissive gesture with one of his 4 arms. There is nothing to discuss. You will accept our terms or face extinction. Dahyun didn't back down. We offer trade, cultural exchange, and defined borders that respect both our territories. Humanity wishes for peaceful. Without warning, the Xilarian guards reached for weapons hidden beneath their ceremonial robes. Hana Park noticed the movement instantly. "Ambassador, down," she shouted, drawing her own sidearm. Chaos erupted in the meeting hall. Energy blasts scorched the walls as Xilarian guards opened fire. Hana and her team formed a protective circle around the human diplomats. "This way," Hana directed, guiding them toward a hidden exit behind a wall panel, a security precaution she had insisted on before the meeting. Ambassador Dahyun barely escaped a blast that melted the podium where he had stood moments before. The human security team returned fire, creating cover as the diplomats fled. "They never intended to negotiate," gasped Dahyun as they rushed through the narrow escape corridor. "No," Hana agreed, checking that everyone had made it through before sealing the door behind them. This was meant to be an execution. 3 minutes later, they reached the safety of the human transport ship. Through the viewport, they watched as the Xilarian vessel departed Luna orbit, heading back to their fleet positioned at the edge of the solar system. Admiral Sungho received the news in the council chamber on Earth. "So," he said grimly, "they've given us their real answer." Counselor Lee nodded. "The message is clear. Submit or be destroyed." "Then we have no choice," the Admiral replied. "Launch the Leviathan fleet." Morning light from twin suns bathed the hills and valleys of New Terra. The human colony was only 10 years old, but already farms and small towns covered the fertile land. Children played in parks while adults worked in fields and buildings. No one looked up at the sky, where danger was coming. In orbit above the peaceful planet, 5 black ships waited. They were unlike any vessels humans had built before. Smooth and dark, they reminded Captain Hana Park of ancient sea creatures from Earth's oceans. These were the Leviathan-class warships, humanity's newest defense. Hana stood on the bridge of the UES Thunderchild, which had been rebuilt with the new technology. 4 other captains commanded the remaining ships: the Defiance, the Valor, the Guardian, and the Sentinel. Together, they formed humanity's first line of protection. "Status report," Hana ordered, her voice calm despite the tension she felt. "All systems ready, Captain," replied her second-in-command, Ha. The other ships report the same. 3 days ago, human scouts had spotted a large Xilarian fleet heading for New Terra. The colony had nearly 50,000 people: farmers, teachers, doctors, and children. They could not be evacuated in time. The 5 human ships were all that stood between them and the Xilarian force. Lieutenant J1's voice cut through the quiet bridge. "Captain, sensors detect multiple objects exiting hyperspace. 87 ships, heavily armed." On the main screen, space itself seemed to bend as the Xilarian warships appeared. They were beautiful in a strange way, shaped like crescent moons with glowing lines along their hulls. The largest was at least 3 times the size of the Thunderchild. "They're taking attack positions," reported the tactical officer. "Weapons charging." Hana took a deep breath. "This is it. All ships, maintain communication link." The main screen flickered, and an alien face appeared. The Xilarian commander had blue-green scales and 7 eyes arranged in a circle. He wore ornate armor that shimmered with strange lights. "I am Lord Call, War Master of the Xilarian Empire," the alien announced. "Humans, this world is now property of the Xilarian Empire. Surrender or be obliterated." Hana met his gaze without flinching. "This is Captain Hana Park of the United Earth Federation. New Terra is a peaceful colony under our protection. We will not surrender." Lord Call made a gesture that might have been amusement. 5 ships against my fleet. Your bravery is matched only by your foolishness." The screen went dark. "They're targeting us," warned Jaiwan. Energy readings climbing fast. Hana nodded. This was the moment of truth. Either the new technology worked, or New Terra would fall. All ships, defensive formation Delta, she ordered. Activate consumption shields. The 5 human ships moved into position, forming a protected screen between the colony and the Xelarian fleet. Their black hulls began to shimmer with a subtle blue glow as the quantum consumption systems came online. Consumption shields at full power, confirmed Ta. The space between the fleets lit up as the Xelarians opened fire. Brilliant beams of energy, red, green, and white, streaked across the void. The bridge crew held their breath as the first blasts reached them. When the energy weapons struck the Thunderchild, there was no explosion. Instead, the ship's hull rippled with light, like the surface of water when a stone is dropped in. The energy seemed to flow into the ship rather than damage it. "It's working," exclaimed Jai-1. Consumption at 20% and rising. On the other human ships, the same thing was happening. The Xelarian weapons, powerful enough to crack open a planet's crust, were being absorbed. "Divert power to main storage," Hana ordered. "Prepare countermeasures." Lord Call's face reappeared on the screen, his multiple eyes wide with disbelief. "Impossible. Your shields cannot withstand our weapons." "We're not blocking your attacks, Lord Call," Hana replied with a small smile. "We're taking them. And thanking you for the energy." "Consumption at 40% and rising," reported Commander Ta from his station. "Shields strengthening with each hit." The Xelarian commander's scales darkened with rage. "Increase power." Full barrage on the lid ship. The Xelarian fleet adjusted their formation and concentrated fire on the Thunderchild. The space around Hana's ship blazed with energy as dozens of weapons targeted her. But with each blast, the Thunderchild's hull glowed brighter. The quantum receptors drank in the energy, storing it in special containment fields throughout the ship. "Consumption at 80%, Tai announced. "We're approaching maximum capacity." On the screen, Lord Call's confusion turned to fear. What manner of technology is this? "Ceasefire, ceasefire." But his order came too late. The 5 human ships were now glowing like small suns, their hulls pulsing with stored energy. Hana's eyes narrowed as she gave her next command. "Now, execute Thunderstorm Protocol." The human vessels moved in perfect coordination, positioning themselves around the Xelarian fleet. Then they released the stored energy in precise, controlled bursts. The effect was devastating. The redirected energy cut through the Xelarian shields as if they weren't there. Ships began to break apart, their beautiful designs now their weakness as the energy overloaded their systems. "Target their weapons and engines," Hana ordered. "Avoid crew sections where possible." The battle continued for 3 hours. With each wave of Xelarian attacks, the human ships grew stronger. They absorbed the energy and sent it back, steadily reducing the alien fleet to drifting wreckage. In the end, only Lord Call's command ship remained functional, limping away toward the edge of the system. "Should we pursue?" asked Ta. Hana shook her head. "Let him go. Let him tell the others what happened here." As the alien ship disappeared into hyperspace, the crew of the Thunderchild began to realize what they had accomplished. Cheers broke out across the bridge. Lieutenant Jai-1 looked at the damage reports with amazement. "Captain, we did it. Not a single human casualty." Down on the surface of New Terra, people emerged from shelters to see the night sky filled with the remains of the Xelarian fleet, a glittering field of debris that would serve as a reminder. Humanity had won its first victory. In the war room of the UES Thunderchild, 5 captains gathered around a large table. 3 weeks had passed since the battle at New Terra. The victory had given humanity hope, but everyone knew the Xelarians would strike back harder. A blue light flickered in the center of the table, forming into the image of Admiral Sumho. His face looked tired, with new lines around his eyes. "Captains," he greeted them, "I bring grave news." Captain Hana Park leaned forward. Since the battle, her ship had been upgraded and repaired. The quantum consumption technology had proven even more effective than hoped. Our spies report that the Xilarians are mobilizing their entire empire, the admiral continued. 17 subject species are contributing warships to a massive fleet, and intelligence has identified something worse, a stellar collapse device capable of destroying entire systems. Hannah felt her stomach tighten. A star killer. Are they really that desperate? They see us as an existential threat now, replied Sunho. Your victory showed them that their normal tactics won't work against our new ships. Hana picked up a data pad and studied the intelligence reports. Star maps showed Xilarian fleet movements, all converging toward human space. They're targeting our core worlds, she said, pointing to Earth, Mars, and Proxima Centauri. These attack paths would hit our most populated systems first. Commander Ta Kim, now captain of his own Leviathan-class ship, stood up. Then we strike first, he said firmly, deep in their territory. The other captains looked at him with surprise. Explain, Admiral Sunho's hologram requested. They expect us to defend, to wait for their attack, Ta said. But with our consumption technology, we grow stronger when attacked. If we push into their space, they'll have to fire on us, making us more powerful with each engagement. It's risky, Hana admitted, but it could work. We need to target their staging areas before they can organize their full armada. Admiral Sunho nodded slowly. We've built 15 more Leviathan ships, 20 in total. I'll authorize the mission. Across the galaxy, in the great crystal palace that served as Xilarian High Command, Lord Kal knelt before his superiors. His once bright scales had dulled with shame after his defeat. Supreme Commander Vex towered over him, his 7 eyes glowing with rage. You said they were primitive. Vex hissed, striking the floor with his ceremonial staff. You said their ships would fall in minutes. Yet our most powerful weapons only made their ships stronger. The chamber was filled with high-ranking Xilarians, all watching Kal's humiliation. Their scales shifted colors with their emotions, mostly showing anger and fear. The technology was unknown to us. Kal defended himself. It defies all logic. They absorb energy and redirect it. Excuses, Vex shouted. You lost 86 ships to 5 human vessels. The Empire has not suffered such a defeat in 3,000 years. From the side of the chamber, a younger Xilarian stepped forward. Her name was Suk, recently promoted to command the research division. Supreme Commander, if I may speak, she said, bowing low. I have studied the battle recordings. These humans have made a breakthrough that changes everything we know about energy manipulation. Your point, Vex demanded. Perhaps we should consider peaceful coexistence. These humans. Silence. Vex ordered, his scales turning a dangerous red. We do not make peace with lesser species. We will deploy the ancient dreadnoughts. No species has ever resisted our full might. Suk stepped back, her scales showing blue patterns of concern. As the meeting continued, she slipped away to her private laboratory. There, she replayed the battle footage again. Something about these humans fascinated her. Their technology was elegant in a way that Xilarians, for all their advancement, had never achieved. 3 days later, human sensors detected massive energy signatures moving toward Xilarian staging areas. The 20 Leviathan-class ships, led by Captain Hannes Thunderchild, had entered enemy territory. Multiple contacts, reported Lieutenant J1. Thousands of ships gathering near the galactic core. Hannah studied the tactical display. The Xilarians were mustering their forces around an ancient artificial structure that orbited the supermassive black hole at the galaxy's center. That's the stellar collapse device, she realized. They're preparing to deploy it against Earth. All ships report ready, Captain, said her new second officer. Hannah took a deep breath. Begin approach. Activate consumption shields. The human fleet moved toward the massive gathering of alien vessels. Ships from 17 different species formed a protective ring around the Xilarian command vessels. At the center floated 3 enormous ships unlike the others, ancient constructs with jagged designs that seemed to hurt the eye. The dreadnoughts. Commander Tay's voice came through the comm. Just as intelligence described. They're powering weapons, warned Jai-1. Energy readings off the charts. On the main Silurian dreadnought, Supreme Commander Vex watched the approaching human fleet with disdain. 20 ships. They send only 20 to face us, he laughed. Begin the attack. Full power to all weapons. Commander Suk, forced to attend as an advisor, spoke one last time. Supreme Commander, I must warn you. If their absorption technology works as we've seen. Your concerns are noted. Vex cut her off. Fire. The battle at the galactic core was like nothing ever witnessed in the galaxy's long history. Thousands of alien ships against just 20 human vessels. The void lit up with energy beams so powerful they distorted the light from nearby stars. But with each blast, the human ships' hulls pulsed brighter. The quantum consumption technology worked even better than before, drawing in the massive energy and storing it. On the Thunderchild's bridge, warning signals flashed. Consumption at 90%, reported Jai-1 with alarm. The energy levels are beyond our tested limits. Hannah watched as her ship began to change. The hull was glowing white-hot, and strange patterns rippled across its surface. The other human ships were experiencing the same transformation. Captain, the space around us is becoming unstable, said the science officer. We're absorbing so much energy that we're beginning to affect the fabric of space-time itself. In the Xilarian command ship, Suk rushed to Vex's side. They're feeding on our attacks, she warned. We must cease fire. Look at what's happening. The view screen showed the human ships surrounded by rippling distortions. Light bent around them in impossible ways. Impossible, whispered Vex. Stop the attack. All ships stopped firing, but it was too late. The human vessels had absorbed more energy than their designers had ever imagined possible. As the Xilarian fleet finally ceased fire, they watched in horror as the human ships began to change into something new, something that blurred the line between matter and energy. The Xilarian homeworld hung in space like a jewel, its blue-green oceans reflecting the light of its yellow sun. 3 moons formed a triangle in the sky above it. This was the heart of an empire that had ruled for 10,000 years. Captain Hannah Park stood on the bridge of the Thunderchild, though it barely resembled a ship anymore. After absorbing so much energy in the battle at the galactic core, the human vessels had changed. They glowed with inner light, and their shapes shifted in ways that seemed impossible. Where there had once been metal and machines, there was now something between solid and energy. We're approaching the outer defense line, Lieutenant J1 reported. His uniform looked strange against the flowing surfaces of the new bridge. Through the view screen, Hannah could see the Xilarian homeworld and the massive fleet gathered to protect it. The battle at the galactic core had been just the beginning. Now, humanity had brought the fight to the very center of Xilarian power. They'd surrounded us, said Jai-1, checking his readings. 5,000 ships, the largest fleet ever assembled in this part of the galaxy. Other officers might have shown fear. Hannah nodded calmly. Just as we planned. The 20 human ships, transformed by the energy they had absorbed, moved into formation. They no longer needed to communicate with radio signals. The captains could sense each other's intentions directly through the strange quantum link their vessels now shared. On the Xilarian command vessel, Lord Kaal stood beside Supreme Commander Vex. Both watched the approaching human fleet with growing dread. How can they still function? Vex demanded. No ships could survive absorbing that much energy. They are no longer just ships, replied Commander Suk, who had been brought to analyze the human technology. They have evolved into something new. Lord Kaal's scales darkened with fear. He had faced these humans before and lost most of his fleet. Now they were far more powerful. Fire the stellar collapse device. Destroy them all. Vex hesitated only a moment before giving the order. Activate the weapon. Target their formation center. Deep within the largest Xilarian ship, ancient machinery awakened. The stellar collapse device had been built thousands of years ago, designed to harness the power of a dying star. It had only been used twice in the Empire's history, each time to end a war by destroying an enemy's home system. A massive energy beam, brighter than a sun, shot forth from the Xelarian flagship. It cut through space toward the human fleet, carrying enough power to tear a planet apart. The human ships did not try to dodge. Instead, they moved closer together, their glowing hulls pulsing in unison. When the beam struck, something extraordinary happened. Instead of destruction, the human vessels seemed to drink in the energy. Their forms stretched and reformed into impossible shapes, bending light around them in ways that defied physics. On the Thunderchild, Hannah felt the energy flow through her ship through her. The quantum consumption technology had evolved far beyond its original design. Now it wasn't just absorbing weapon fire. It was reshaping reality itself. Energy absorption complete, Jai-1 reported, though the words seemed inadequate for what had just happened. The fleet is ready. Hannah nodded. Begin the final protocol. The 20 human ships began to pulse with blinding light. Waves of energy spread outward, washing over the Xelarian fleet. But these were not destructive blasts. Instead, the energy flowed through the alien ships in a carefully controlled pattern. On the Xelarian vessels, systems began to shut down. Weapons went offline. Engines stopped. Shields failed. But life support remained functioning, and the hulls stayed intact. "What are they?" whispered Commander Sook in awe as she watched the display. Around her, the command crew stared in shock as their mighty warships were disabled without a single explosion. Lord Cowell turned to Vex. "Supreme Commander, we have no weapons, no engines. We are helpless." For the first time in his long life, Supreme Commander Vex had no orders to give. The empire that had never known defeat was at the mercy of beings they had dismissed as primitives. A communication signal reached every ship in the Xelarian fleet simultaneously. Captain Hannah Park's image appeared on their screens. "This is Captain Hannah Park of Earth," she said, her voice calm and clear. "We could destroy you, but that is not our way. We offer peace, as equals, not subjects." Silence filled the Xelarian command ship. Vex stood frozen, unable to comprehend the complete reversal of fortune. In that moment, Commander Sook stepped forward. "Supreme Commander, if I may." When Vex didn't respond, she moved to the communication console. "This is Commander Sook of the Xelarian Science Division. We accept your terms, Captain Park. The Xelarian Empire has much to learn about humility." 3 months later, a grand hall on a neutral planet hosted representatives from both civilizations. Humans in formal uniforms stood alongside Xelarians, whose scales shimmered with ceremonial patterns. Leaders from the 17 formerly subjugated species also attended, now free to determine their own paths. The Galactic Concordat was signed, establishing boundaries and rights for all species. 10,000 years of Xelarian dominance ended not with destruction, but with a new beginning. Captain Hannah Park watched the ceremony from the observation deck of the Thunderchild. The ship had stabilized into a new form, still recognizable as a vessel, but glowing with inner light that hinted at powers beyond normal understanding. Lieutenant Jai-1 joined her by the viewport. "They're actually signing it," he said with wonder. "The Xelarians are accepting equal status with other species." "Commander Sook has been key to the peace process," Hannah replied. "Some Xelarians were ready for change. They just needed the right moment." "Do you think it will last?" asked Jai-1, watching the distant figures shake hands and bow to each other. Hannah smiled, her eyes reflecting the starlight. "Peace is always harder than war. But for the first time in 10,000 years, the galaxy has a chance at true cooperation." Below them, the diplomats completed the signing ceremony. A new era had begun, one where humans and Xelarians would walk together among the stars, neither masters nor subjects, but equals in the vast universe. Beyond the viewport, the stars continued their eternal dance, witnessing the dawn of a new age for all sentient beings.